Good morning to the Board of County Commissioners agenda setting work session. It is Tuesday, July 26, 2022. It is 9:06 a.m. This is set to go until 12 p.m. This is a hybrid meeting. We're in Building 1, Room 280. For public virtual attendance, you may follow along on the Thurston County YouTube channel. I'm Carolina Mejia. I'm the chair of the board. Vice Chair Ty Menser joining me in the boardroom. Commissioner Gary Edwards is excused for this week. We have Assistant County Manager Robin Campbell filling in for County Manager Ramiro Chavez, and as well as other staff members joining us via Zoom as well as in the boardroom. We'll start today with our standing item, which is Homeless Strategies Update.
Good morning, Commissioners. Keely Marino with Public Health and Social Services. A couple things today to update you on. One is that there is a hazardous weather event that has been declared, and we are offering for those who are experiencing homelessness or who are vulnerable a cooling center today from 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. down at 201 Capitol Way Northwest in the old fire hall. And we also will be sending out our outreach contractor Partners in Prevention Education. They'll be taking cooling methods of cooling out into encampments as well as water. We are accepting donations for all activities every day this week between 12 and 2 p.m. down at that address, 201 Capitol Way Northwest. So please, if anyone would like to donate, just bring any cooling supplies that you might like to donate to that address between the hours of 12 p.m. and 2 p.m. Great. We also we have an update on the right-of-way. We're moving forward, still making plans around clearing parts of the Pacific Way interchanges. No individuals have been moved at this time as we are waiting for Interfaith Works to have availability in their shelter, which looks like that will happen in the next few days. Also, we heard today from Commerce about our proposal that we sent in last week for the right-of-way projects. We were told that every county that did put in a proposal asked for a hotel to be funded. We were told that we will not have both of those hotels that we put into our proposal funded through the right-of-way. And we will be expecting their response in the next day or so. That response will include a total of how much funding will be coming into the county for all the projects that we've identified, and then we are tasked with taking those funds and deciding how we'd like to disperse them. However, we do intend to apply for some competitive funds through the rapid capital acquisition process for the second hotel. And as we have more information on that, I'd be glad to update you. And that is all I have for you today.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No.
I don't have any questions either. Thank you, Keely. Next on our agenda is the review of the Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of July 26, 2022. Call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led. That needs to change since Commissioner Edwards is not here. It will be led by Vice Chair Menser. Wait, can you do it? Is that something, or should I?
I think you should.
Okay.
I won't be physically present this
Yeah,
afternoon.
so I'll do it. So the Commissioner here. Approval of the Tuesday, July 26, 2022 agenda and approval of the board meeting minutes from July 19th, 2022. We have one presentation today, which is the introduction of the new Superior Court Administrator.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. We believe that Judge Wilson will be here to present our new administrator of the courts.
Okay. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. Next is an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
I have no information at this time, other than we have received an email from a citizen regarding what he intends to give his testimony.
Okay. Questions on that? Next is consent items A through C. The first item is item 3A, appointment to the Agritourism Advisory Committee.
Yes, this item was approved apparently at last Tuesday morning's agenda setting.
After 3B is the appointment to the Lewis Mason Thurston Area on Agency, and then item C is the reappointment to the Fair Board.
Both also approved by the board last week.
Okay. Next is the department items, items 4A, approval of the voucher list.
Yes, this is the standard voucher list that the board approves each week. This particular list has 2 items related to the Interim project. They can be found on pages 57 and 58 of the voucher list. But the voucher list in total is roughly $4.3 million.
Questions? Okay.
Just wondering if we can just put it on the consent agenda. Commissioner Edwards isn't here. I mean, the Commissioner has a right to have it removed, but he's not here to make that request.
So I was just told this morning that we're not sure if Commissioner
Okay.
Edwards will
Very good.
be here or not.
You keep it where it is.
Okay, then item 5A. So we're not sure.
About
Legacy.
Commissioner Edwards.
She's in-
So,
Wednesday.
yeah, perhaps, Jeannie, you could share what you shared with me.
Commissioner Edwards' aide touched base with me this morning and said that if he's got some reception to join remotely, that he'll jump on and come in and Zoom. If not, then he is planning to be excused today.
Okay.
Okay.
Item 5A is the 2022 budget amendment.
Yes, this is an amendment for the capital budget projects. As the board reviewed a few weeks ago, in many of our capital items, we are seeing an escalation in price due to supply chain issues and inflation. So this amendment is only on capital items. And I would also mention that there was a change in a project number for the capital item related to the courthouse infrastructure improvements. That is in your packets and available to the public, but we were advised by our attorney to not post it after 2 o'clock yesterday, but it is available. And the only change is a project number, which, by the way, the project numbers are accounting codes and will not necessarily align with the CIP, but we did so on this one just to be consistent. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Munster?
The project number is something that is on the attachment A, because I don't see any project numbers on the resolution. So we're talking about just,
Yes, on the attachment, and I think it's actually attachment B.
which is like our typical spreadsheets for,
It's the detail spreadsheet.
and that's the change request, no, what's the number that you're referring to?
So
Like the CP number in the title?
If I may,
Yes, please.
it's on page 1 of attachment B. It's line 1, and it's in the title section there, Thurston County Courthouse Infrastructure Upgrades, project number 25610. that was updated to match exactly what's in the CIP.
Okay,
That was the number that was requested at the,
I was asked what the CIP number was for this particular project, and that is the CIP number.
okay,
It's the number that I provided at the time.
okay,
And the number that had been printed on this attachment in the past is, again, project code, it's an accounting code. It's probably the accounting code or one of many that we will use associated with this project. Projects, large projects, often are broken down into many segments. Each segment has its own project code so that we can track the funding. It's not a requirement of the CIP, and projects in accounting don't always match the project number in the CIP. But we aligned it to be consistent.
okay.
Any questions about the amendment?
Questions?
no? No,
What's gonna be the resolution number for this?
If I may, Commissioner Mejia, once we get the resolutions all passed, then I go through and I actually assign the resolution number to it. So until I go through the book to see what resolution number it was that I left off with last, I can't say right off the top of my head.
Okay. Okay, resolution looks good. If there's no more questions, we'll move on to item 6, Community Planning and Economic Development. Item 6A, request for proposals on an industrial lands assessment of rural Thurston County and urban growth areas.
I am going to ask Andrew to tell the board a little bit about this motion.
Thank you. Commissioners, my name is Andrew Bond with Community Planning. Just a brief overview. This stems from a project last year that the public proposed that we do an industrial lands study. And so CP8 was docketed this past April to do that exact project. And so what the project entails is it's kind of a 3-part study that looks at the economic trends, what's happening on the ground today, and 3 economic forecasts based on the board's kind of goal for the county in terms of industry. And then following that, a memo from the consultant that provides us detailed action items that we can use to implement whatever economic policy we'd like to move forward with. I'm available for any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, I went through it last week. Thank you, Andrew.
No questions from me either. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Moving on to Public Health and Social Services, item 7A, approval of amendment number 5 to the Washington State Department of Health 2022 through 2024 consolidated contract. And
Sure, I think that Kurt is going to tell us specifically what this contract will pay for.
Yeah, good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services. I'm requesting the Board of County Commissioners approve Amendment 5 to the State of Washington Department of Health Consolidated Contract Number CLH31030. It's also commonly referred to as the CONCON. This amendment increases the contract amount by $2,570,638 for a total amount in the contract of $9,348,056. This amendment provides funding for COVID-19 mass vaccination, a ELC COVID response and infectious disease prevention. And it also is a promotion of immunization to improve vaccination rates. The Board of County Commissioners approved the base contract on January 11th of this year, Amendment 1 on March 15th, and Amendments 2 and 3 on April 26th, and then the most recent amendment, Amendment 4 on June 7th. Department of Health will continue to send additional amendments for scope of work and funding as they develop. This contract is the mechanism used to transmit federal and state funding for the Thurston County Public Health Services to the county through December 31st, 2024. Subject to your questions, that's the essence of the contract.
Questions? Commissioner Menzer?
No.
No questions from me, Kurt. Thank you. Item 7B, approval of professional services agreements with contractors for supported employment, high school transition, value-based payments, and community inclusion services.
Thank you, Commissioner. This motion is to award funding to various partners for the provision of services to our citizens with developmental disabilities. And I'll ask Mark Moffett to tell us a little more about it.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is our annual agreement with our providers that provide services to people with developmental disabilities in our community. They provide supported employment, high school transition, job foundation, community inclusion services in both Thurston and Mason counties. Last month, you approved a contract to receive the money from DSHS, and this is where the money is going that we're receiving from them.
Thank you. Questions?
No.
No questions for me. Thank you.
You bet.
Item 7C, contract with Catholic Community Services Southwest Emergency Shelter Services for Veterans.
This item is a contract to provide shelter to homeless veterans and their families at Drexel House. And I'm going to ask Lenise to tell us a little more about this.
Good morning, Commissioners. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. This contract is our annual renewal. We've had this contract for about 11 years now, and we're renewing it this year to provide services to our veterans. We service with this contract about 16 veterans a year, and we have them stated on here at $45 a night, and we reimburse for the fund. Are there any questions?
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Drexel, so what's the average amount of time that someone stays there?
90 days. That's the maximum that they can stay. And so far, I've been seeing that it's been about 90 days.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. I asked my questions last week in regards to this matter. Okay, item 7D, amend interagency agreement with Washington State Department of Commerce for rent assistance. And Tom, are items 7D, E, and F, as well as G related?
So items D and F are related. So one of my recommendations, if it's possible to have item F moved up, those two are related. Items E and G are separate.
Okay, can you address the matters that are related? So D and F together?
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. So item D is to sign an amendment with the Department of Commerce to add $1,670,217 to our ERAP or Eviction Rent Assistance Program 2.0 contract. That initial contract was for just over $7.5 million. So this amendment will bring that total amount of funding to here somewhere $9.2 million. And so I want to make sure that we're clear that even though we're receiving this money, we are not going to be opening up the kind of rent assistance portal to the general public. We think we have enough applications in. We want to make sure we're able to serve all those who have applications in for rent assistance. But this is just an amendment to add some additional money that we were not expecting from the state for rent assistance. So the next item, is the which is currently listed as item F, is to then use this money to issue contracts to Live Stories and Community Use Services, with increasing Live Stories contract by $1,453,000, and increasing the CYS Community Use Services contract by up to $167,021 for them to continue the rent assistance program. So that's the connection between those two items. One is to receive the revenue from the Department of Commerce, and the other item is to issue those awards to those two agencies that are implementing the rent assistance programs. So I will stop there and ask for any questions on those two items.
Questions?
So, no.
No questions for me, thank you. Now, moving on to the next item, which is the approval of right-of-way contracts.
All right. So this item, let me pull up that item, is, you'll recall that for the right-of-way money we've received from the state, we issued an RFP. On June 14th, you approved that execution of a contract of the interagency agreements with the State Department of Commerce for up to $5 million over 3 years. We issued a request for proposals looking for agencies that would conduct outreach to those living on the state's right-of-way, as well as a contractor to provide hoteling services for those living on the right-of-way who are actively fleeing domestic violence. We received applications. The Regional Housing Council Technical Review Team reviewed those applications, made recommendations to the Regional Housing Council, and the Regional Housing Council is bringing these recommendations, has made these recommendations to you for contracting. So we're recommending a contract with Olympia Mutual Aid Partners and Angels for Angels for $300,000 per year for 3 years for $900,000 total for outreach activities, and a contract for up to $200,000 for hotel leasing for those fleeing domestic violence living in the rights of way to Safe Place. Those contracts, they can begin incurring costs as of July 1st. So happy to answer any questions about this item.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Minzer?
Angels for Angels, does that have some connection to OLIMAP, or they're two groups and they're working together on this somehow?
Angels for Angels is their fiscal sponsor, so they support and providing financial support. So OLIMAP is conducting the work, but Angels for Angels, as OLIMAP, is still working to finalize their IRS 501c3 status. Angels for Angels acts as their fiscal sponsor.
I think I asked you that before. I'd forgotten. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No questions for me. Next item, item G, contract with Live Stories for hen payment assistance.
Go ahead.
All right.
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, okay. So this is, last week you approved a contract with Pipe to provide case management services for hen clients, housing and essential needs clients. And so this contract is asking us to move forward. So sorry to back up for a little bit. This month, the county is making direct payments for hen eligible clients for rent and utility assistance. But moving forward, we would like to find a new provider on an interim basis until we can issue an RFP and identify a permanent long-term provider for the hen program. So in the interim, what we are proposing is to contract with Live Stories on a short-term basis so they can issue the checks. And so this would purely be kind of cutting the checks for rent and utility and other eligible costs for up to 3 months for up to $1 million. We think, roughly this program spends around $300,000 a month in payments. So this would allow them to cover 3 months of payments until we can have a permanent provider on board. Live Stories we've reached out, and Live Stories has the capability to start cutting these checks immediately. Other agencies we've reached out to, it would take them a couple months to kind of develop the in-house capacity to do this. And so that's why we're recommending moving forward with live stories. And with that, and there is a waiver from the county auditor that's attached to the AIS with the justification for doing a sole source to live stories in this instance. And happy to answer any questions on this one.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Looking at note, is everything you just said, Tom, consistent with what we discussed last week, or has there been a change?
There has been no change. No, this is consistent with what we discussed last week.
So right now, just to recap, the county had to take over on an emergency basis, issuing checks. In the medium term, you're asking us to approve this transfer of that responsibility to live stories, and then that's going to go for how long? You said 3 months.
3 months is the plan. Yes.
Until what happens?
Well, what we're hoping to bring to you in the near future, an approval to issue an RFP to find a permanent provider. And so when we issue that RFP, we'll need to receive those applications, make an award, and then it will take that provider kind of a couple months to get up to speed to be ready to take over the program.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. No questions for Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Public Works. Item 8A, contract award for US 12 Urban Improvement Phase 1, Old Highway 99 Southwest to West UGA Boundary Project. And Teresa?
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you. This is a project that we've been working on for a few years, which, as you all know, is a roundabout at US 12 and Sergeant Road in Grand Mound. This is an important project for the community to help with traffic flow and emergency response due to the growth that is occurring and development that is occurring in the area. On June 16th, the county opened bids. We received 3 bids, and the low bidder was Active Construction out of Tacoma, and their low bid was in the amount of $4,096,096, and we're asking for the award of that contract. I welcome any questions.
Questions? Commissioner Menser?
No.
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Teresa. And this is on the budget amendment that we're going to be, so one cannot go through without the other, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yeah, this is dependent because if you don't approve the budget amendment, we cannot obligate these funds.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes.
Item 8B, contract award for the Boston Harbor Road Northeast stormwater conveyance and outfall improvements, Boston Harbor Road Northeast and 73rd Avenue Northeast. And Nate?
Morning, Commissioners. Nate Emsley here. Yeah, on July 7th, we opened 5 bids for this project, and the low responsive bidder was Northwest Cascade Inc. out of Puyallup, and they had a bid amount of $1,126,126. Again, this project seeks to revamp a failing shoreline outfall structure in the Boston Harbor neighborhood, along with upgrade roadside conveyance facilities that ultimately drain down to this stormwater outfall structure. And the requested board motion is to award the contract. This project is not tied to the budget amendment request that Sergeant Road was. And I open any questions.
Questions, Commissioner Menser? No questions for me. Thank you. Item C, set a public hearing for the 6-year transportation improvement program for 2023 through 2028. And Scott?
Scott?
Good morning, Commissioners. Scott Lindblom, County Engineer. The item before you for this is the request to set a public hearing for consideration of the 6-year transportation improvement program. You may recall we did brief you, the board, on this on July 11th. And the transportation improvement program, or as we call the TIP, includes a look at both revenues and expenditures of the road fund and traffic impact fees, the annual road program, the 6-year road program, the 20-year project list, and the annual bridge report. And I would welcome any questions that you might have.
Questions? Commissioner Menzer?
No, took care of that extensively in our, what was it, half-day meeting?
Okay, item D. It felt like more than a half day. Item D, contract award for the Woodard Creek Site Number 1 Water Quality Retrofit South Bay Road Northeast at 26th Avenue Northeast. And Nate, we're back to you.
Thanks, Commissioner. So yes, this project has also been in the works for a while. The goal is to treat stormwater flows along South Bay Road and 26 prior to discharging into Woodard Creek. On June 22nd, we had one responsive bid for this project from Active Construction, Inc. in the amount of $1,098,098. And the requested board motion would be to approve award of this contract. And this project is on the budget amendment for the board's consideration this afternoon. Open to take any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, so is this like a routine maintenance? Did we have some kind of failure? Are we upgrading? Did we do water quality testing and there was a problem? I'm just curious because we get a lot of citizen comments about this area in Woodard Creek and what the water quality situation is. So I'm wondering what's spurring this project.
Yeah, so there was a Woodard Creek Basin Water Resource Protection Study completed by Thurston County in 2015, and that identified a number of pollutant concerns in Woodard Creek. And pollutants from roadway runoff was one of the potential contributors to that pollutant loading. And so this project seeks to address or treat that roadway runoff.
When did you say that study was done that identified pollutant concerns?
Yeah, the data I have here is 2015.
And are these, I don't know the hydrogeology all that well in that particular area. Is this like a salmon bearing stream, or is this goes to the Henderson Inlet, right? Shellfish district, or what are all the considerations that we're trying to manage?
Yeah, the target species we're trying to help here is shellfish.
And then that study, did it look, what was it trying to look at? Was it looking up and down Woodard Creek and that's where there was a problem, or did it then fault track that like further upstream to see where, you know, kind of the problems might be being generated? I know we have developments that further down, further south of there, there's residential development. I don't know exactly in this particular area.
I do not have that answer off the top of my head ready to go for you. I'm happy to follow up if you'd like.
Well, that's good. I'm just curious because I want to try to connect what we're doing with some of the, you know, information and complaints I hear, and making sure that we're, to the extent that we're directly addressing, then I can communicate that out to folks in the community. So, yeah, maybe it's just about what the scope of that 2015 study looked at and what, you know, how that led to this particular project being targeted as the thing to do. So if you had any insight on that, you could email me separately or whatnot. Thank you.
We'll follow up with an email. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I would be curious too, because from 2015 to now, it's been kind of a huge gap. And I mean, sometimes road conditions change. I'm not saying that this basically, the pollutants haven't gone away because of stormwater runoff, but sometimes they get worse. We've seen flooding change in different areas of the county. And so I'm wondering, are there any concerns that this study might be outdated to kind of our road systems now as there's been more growth around the area?
I think that the study would probably still hold up when new developments come in. The expectation is that they have a negligible increase in stormwater runoff due to their added impervious surface. So that should protect this from experiencing more flows in the future. Does that answer your question?
It does, Nate, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, that was just my concern, if there was gonna be any gap, just because it's been so long before, you know. Okay, after that, it will be the county manager items. Commissioners will report on board work sessions and assign committee meetings. And the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners scheduled for the week of July 26th. We do have 2 public hearings, and I will be pausing our regular agenda session to go into our public hearings. The first one is set to start at 3 p.m. And it's a public hearing to receive public comment on the formation of the Paterson Lake Management District.
Yes, thank you. As you know, residents of Paterson Lake have petitioned for the formation of a lake management district that would be operated by the county. There are 4 steps involved in creating a lake management district. The first is a passing of the resolution, which the board has done on June 21st. This is the second step, holding a public hearing. After the public hearing is held, the board could authorize a vote of the landowners with affected properties. And if that should pass, then the board would adopt an ordinance that establishes the LMD. And we have Tim Wilson here to help with any questions that you may have.
Tim, anything you would like to add?
Good morning, Commissioners. Great summary by Robin. I would just add that this is the second opportunity for the board to answer the question that is outlined in statute as to whether the formation of the proposed LMD is in the public interest. So we do have a follow-up briefing scheduled for tomorrow for the board to discuss what you hear this afternoon and hopefully make that determination.
Commissioner Menzer?
So, Tim, I'm sure you probably don't know the answer to this, but I'll just ask it. I mean, are we aware of any situation where a court or a state agency like Ecology deemed that why would a formation of a lake management district not be in the public interest? What would be a situation in which we would have to go, nope, citizens managing their own lake, that's bad. Shouldn't do it.
Well, I guess the question for the board could be, it could be a lot of things. It could be equity, how the proposed boundaries of the proposed district are put together, and the rate structure for a proposed LMD. That could be a consideration for the board if it's equitable across all of the affected property owners. Also, staff definitely takes a look at a proposed intent when the petition comes in to have a look at what the proposal hopes to achieve. In this case, it's heavily weighted towards water quality and generally in alignment with what the board has supported through other initiatives. But if a proposal came in that had a different idea of what they want to achieve, that would be something for the board to consider.
Okay, and the boundaries and the rate structure we haven't discussed that. Is that in their petition? Is that lined out in their petition and we're supposed to know what they're proposing before we decide?
Yes, so there was a briefing held in April that kind of walked through the petition itself. We can certainly talk more about the rate structure at the briefing tomorrow. I think the boundary map and the rate structure should be in your package for this afternoon to have a look at as well. And then we can certainly talk about the vote structure. The vote structure for LMDs is a little bit unique in that if it should go to a vote of the citizens, it is basically weighted so it is a one vote per dollar of assessed rates. So if an upland owner is proposed to charge $70 a year or pay $70 a year, they get 70 votes. If a lakefront owner is going to be paying $750 a year, they get 750 votes towards deciding whether that be formed. So definitely just something for the board to be aware of and to talk through. And we can certainly be prepared to talk through that at tomorrow's briefing.
Yeah, so I don't have that information, and I would ask that we walk through that tomorrow because I would like staff to be able to tell me what they've laid out is consistent with our other lake management districts or consistent with the public interest or whatever you think. I'd like your assessment as to how they've structured it. Is it different? If so, why? Because we have not discussed that. I might have missed the April briefing that you're referring to, but I don't remember that discussion at all.
We walked over the maps,
I
but
don't
not,
remember that, so I think I missed that.
but it wasn't over, we didn't go really into the rates. It was more of how Paula presented kind of a picture of the map and how it was.
Right, Tim, we did not receive the maps or the rate structure. How has that been made available to the public for the hearing today?
So all of the information is on the county's website, on the Public Works Healthy Lakes website. Also a notice of public hearing, in addition to being advertised per our common practice, it was mailed directly to all affected property owners. So if you are included within the boundaries of the proposed district, you should have received a notice in the mail. In addition to that, the 3 different state agencies that are called out by statute received notification as well. So Department of Ecology, DNR, and Fish and Wildlife all received notifications as well.
Great, thank you. Could you please send the maps and the rate structure over to Jamie today?
Absolutely. We'll do that right now.
Okay. Tim, my question was going to be a follow-up to Commissioner Mentzer's first question in regards to, commissioners turning down, but didn't that happen with Summit Lake? Didn't the petition get turned down by commissioners?
No, by the
No,
voters.
the voters.
By the
voted it
voters?
down.
So it went to the voters and then
The voters declined.
Commissioners voted 2-1 to let the voters vote, and then they voted it down. They only needed like 10% or whatever to get it, to get the petition to the commissioners. Commissioners said, let's let the people decide, and the people decided not to form.
Okay.
Which could happen here too.
Absolutely.
But I guess we have this extra level of screening where we could just say, we don't think it's in the public interest, we're not gonna let them vote.
That's true. Tim, do you remember if Summit Lake was forming as a LMD under the county or if they were forming their own district?
Special district.
So Summit Lake proposed a petition for a special district, similar to Black Lake Special District.
Right, so that was
A bit of a different process.
A little different. In this case, the county would be agreeing to take on this
Okay.
management.
Okay. Perfect. And so I know the way that this was laid out, it was to hear opposition Was that corrected?
No, that is in accordance with state law.
So the
It
state-
specifically says it that way in the law.
So I know we've decided that we're gonna let whoever wants to testify either in support or against.
Exactly.
But since it's laid out by statute, are we supposed to hear the opposition first and then, or just whoever signs up first?
It's just open to a public hearing. We just have to word it this way because that's what the law requires.
Okay. Thank you. So that would conclude our first hearing. And then we have a second public hearing, which is, hopefully we will start at 3:30. If not, we'll start shortly thereafter. And it's the repealing and replacing the commercial property assessed clean energy and resiliency ordinance. And
Right.
Jenica, do you?
No, we can turn it straight over to Jenica. Go ahead.
Hi, good morning. So Thurston County Commissioners passed the Commercial Property Assessed Clean Energy and Resilience Ordinance originally on July 20th, 2021. Recent legislation was passed that clarifies the enforcement provisions of the CPACER statute, refining the collection process for CPACER liens. It completely removes any enforcement responsibility from the county treasurer. As such, amendments were necessary for the county ordinance so the language aligns to the state law.
Thank you.
And Jenica, will you be doing this PowerPoint presentation at the public hearing this afternoon?
Yes, I will be providing an overview and synopsis of what is different in this ordinance.
And you have this in your packet.
Yep.
Thank you, Jenica. Oh, questions? No? Okay.
No questions.
That would conclude our agenda for July 26, 2022. Okay.
So real quick, there was really minimal changes to today's agenda. I have to leave right after agenda setting. I'm wondering how quickly the updates could be made. So I guess I'm looking at the clerk of the board. How quickly could, we only had a couple little tweaks here, and I have to leave. I'd love to have the updated agenda to take with me. So if there's a way to do those like as quickly afternoon as possible.
I've actually done it already. I can print you off a copy right now.
Yeah, okay, perfect. At the break, you can, thank you. Okay, we'll go to the next agenda.
Yeah, so our next item is the review of Board of County Commissioners draft agenda for our meeting of August 2nd, 2022. We would call the meeting to order at 2 p.m. Pledge of Allegiance to be led by Vice Chair Menser, approval of the Tuesday, August 2nd, 2022 agenda, and approval of the board meeting minutes from July 26, 2022. We have two presentations scheduled that day, and it's introduction of new employees. The first one is new pretrial services diversion officer introduction.
Yes, Commissioner, Mary Ann will be attending to introduce the new diversion officer to the board.
Questions on that? Comments, Commissioner Menser?
No.
And then next one is the introduction of emergency management manager.
Acting Director of Emergency Services, Ben Miller Todd, will be attending to introduce new staff at Emergency Services.
And Kurt has popped his camera up.
Right, if you have any questions.
Kurt, anything you would like to add?
No, I'm just filling in for Ben. He's on a well-deserved vacation this week.
Questions, Commissioner Menser? No questions for me. Thank you, Kurt. Next is an opportunity for the public to address the board and county manager's update.
None at this time.
Consent, next is consent items A through C. First item, 3A, request for proposal issuance awarding of contract for food services for the Thurston County Corrections Facility and the Thurston County Juvenile Detention Center.
Thank you, Commissioners. The Sheriff's Office, in coordination with Juvenile Court, issues a contract to support food services for both our adult and juvenile detention facilities. And this would be an RFP for a new or renewed contract. And Under Sheriff Brady is here to help with any questions you may have.
Under Sheriff Brady, anything you'd like to add?
Hey, good morning, Commissioners. Yeah, our current contract, I believe, expires the end of November of this year. And so we're going out for proposal, and then juvenile detention will use our contract to piggyback for theirs on. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
Under Sheriff, I remember changing this contract like maybe a couple of years ago from one to another, and I guess how's it been going recently? Is this just kind of formality, or are you guys looking to make a change of some kind, or?
Yeah, it just is the end of the contract, so I imagine I'm fairly confident that the same vendor will put in for the contract. And as far as I'm aware, any issues that we've had have been resolved, and things are going well. So, but yeah, the contract's ending, so certainly we'll look at other vendors as well that put in for the RFP.
Got it. Thank you.
I don't have any questions, thank you. But might as well stay on. The next item is for the Sheriff's Office as well, and it's Lake Lawrence Regatta application.
Yeah, Under Sheriff Brady, perhaps you could describe this one for Commissioners.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a very long-standing regatta or race that occurs on Lawrence Lake every year. It's held by the Seattle Outboard Association. In fact, Lake Lawrence is one of their kind of premier lakes for this group. And as part of that application process, that comes to the Sheriff's Office initially, and then also comes before the board for approval for them to use the lake for that purpose. So again, very long-standing tradition with this organization, and it has always gone very well, and we enjoy working with this group.
Thank you, Under Sheriff. Questions, Commissioner Menzer?
No, I think this is my fourth time looking at this one, and always seems to be a well-received event.
No questions for me. Moving on to our next item, 3C, approval of the voucher list.
So this is your weekly approval of the voucher list, and we are not aware at this time of any payments for the Atrium on this week's list.
Questions on that item? Okay. Moving on to department items, community planning and economic development. Item 4A, set a public hearing for the 2022 George Open Space application. And just as an FYI, the August 30th, 2022 at 3:30, it's at the same time as the TIP hearing that we just reviewed for this week. So can this one be set for 4?
That might have been I had that suggestion of stacking them.
Stacking them at the same time?
That way, if one's really short, we just move into the other one. People aren't
Waiting? Okay,
or
that's,
guessing when we're gonna get, I don't know. Is that why they were both at 3:30? Because that was my suggestion. I don't know.
okay,
I probably just didn't catch the time on the AISs, but I'll get one of them updated so
Well,
that they go back to
if
back.
that was Commissioner Munster's suggestion, we can try it out, that's fine. We'll just have the 2 public hearings and then we'll start with one and then move on to the next one. But I see Chris has jumped on for this item, so Chris?
Thank you, commissioners. So the board had a briefing on this particular application on the 14th of July, where we went over the application and the Georgia's request for tax relief, and we're here if there's any questions. This is just to set the public hearing.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Messer?
No.
And no questions for me, Chris. This was something that we had a work session about, so if any members of the public are interested. Public Health and Social Services, item 5A, amendment number 1 to the DSHS long-term payable interlocal agreement number 2163-23-63-4.
Yes, Kurt Harden is here to tell us a little about this contract.
Good morning again, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director of Public Health and Social Services. This is an amendment that is an ongoing contract that provides the county the ability to dip into a reserve account with the state to pay for our services for developmental disabilities. While the county does not normally take advantage of this, it is there in case we need it. There are a number of jurisdictions around the state that do not have the cash reserves to pay their vendors up front and then request reimbursement from the state. So this is a normal routine that goes back, as far as we can tell, back to 2012 to the original contract.
Thank you, Kurt. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
No, I think if Commissioner Edwards were here, he would make the observation that this is incomprehensible to a person that was reading it, and you might want to throw developmental disability into the action just so folks know what it relates to, because long-term payable doesn't mean much.
Okay, we'll take a look at the wording.
Okay. Item B, approval of contract with Mud Bay Consulting for HUD 2023 through 2027 Consolidated Plan.
Yes, Commissioner, this is a contract for assistance in preparing the required HUD consolidated plan, and Jacinta is here to tell us a little more about it.
Morning, Commissioners. Jacinta Stelches with Public Health and Social Services. Excuse me. The item before you today is for approval of a contract with Mud Bay Consulting to help the Office of Housing and Homeless Prevention prepare our 2023 through 2027 consolidated plan. Again, this plan is required by HUD to receive our Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnership Program funding annually. In this plan, we will identify community priorities and goals to be carried out with those funding sources over the next 5 years. Again, beginning September 1st, 2023 through September 1st, 2023 through August 31st, 2027. This is, again, a required plan that is prepared every 5 years. It is a fairly hefty plan, and this is why we have gone out for requests for proposals and selected Mud Bay. This contract would be for an amount up to $50,000, and that would be paid with our Community Development Block Grant funding that we currently have, with an allowed expense of admin purposes. I'm available to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Jacinta. Questions, Commissioner Menser?
Have we used Mud Bay Consulting before?
We have not.
And I imagine with that name, they're local?
They are out of Whatcom County, Bellingham. We received 2 proposals, one from Mud Bay, two responses, one from Mud Bay and one from Chicago.
From what?
Chicago, based out of Chicago.
Okay.
Jacinta, my question is that 7-year requirement set by HUD? Because it just seems like such a long contract.
So the consolidated plan time frame, that 5-year is a HUD, is set by HUD. And then we additionally do our annual action plan that is also brought before you all, and where we identify priorities that align with that 5-year plan. And that annual action plan, again, is annually and ties to the consolidated plan.
Thank you. When it's 5-year, I said 7, I apologize. Okay, if there are no further questions, moving on to Public Works. Thank you, Jacinda. Item 6A, approved project prospectus and local agency agreement for the countywide electrical services project.
Yes, Commissioner. So this is a interagency agreement with the Washington State Department of Transportation. The county will receive grants to support the countywide electrical services project that will provide for speed feedback signs, intersection streetlights, and other elements of the local road safety plan for Thurston County. This is the first of 4 phases, and we have Bill here to tell us a little more about it.
Morning, Commissioners. I'm Bill Richardson. Thurston County has been awarded a total of $1,465,000 in federal funding for the Highway Safety Improvement Program for the design and construction of the countywide electrical services project, which is CP 61550. This project improves intersection and roadway safety along various roadways throughout Thurston County. Improvements include the installation of feedback signs, lane narrowing, and intersection street lights. Locations have been identified, as she said, using the county local road safety plan, which is specifically developed to match countermeasures to higher risk roadway characteristics. Public Works is requesting permission from the board to authorize the Director of Public Works to execute the project prospectus and local agency agreement with WashDOT and subsequent amendments and supplements. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions, Commissioner Munster?
Is this just money we can use for these projects? There's not matching obligations or some other burden we're taking on?
This is
no
fully
match.
funded.
Yep.
Okay, it sounds like there's not a downside there.
I mean, do we expect the project to cost much more than the 1.4, or are we expected this amount to cover this phase 1 of this project?
So our estimate is 1.6, but we have it built up with a priority list. So we will not be going over this budget. We'll hit our priorities and max out what money we are given, but we'll not go over.
I will hold you to that, Bill. Okay, moving on to the standing items. County Commissioner will report on board work sessions and assigned committee meetings. And then the county manager will review the Board of County Commissioners schedule for the week of August 2nd. We have a public hearing set at 3, which I will be pausing again our regular set agenda and going to this public hearing. And the public hearing is to consider adoption of the ordinance to amend section 2.130.030 of the Thurston County Code relating to public records index and cost for providing copies of public records. And this is from the Sheriff's Office, so Under Sheriff Brady.
Yeah, so this, as we've talked about before, is related to our current county code as far as billing goes for public disclosures. Does not include billing for body worn or in-car camera costs associated. So we worked closely on this project with Karen Horowitz from the prosecutor's office, who handles the county's PDR information, and developed this per the RCW. And so this is a public hearing to get any kind of feedback as far as a change to our fee schedule goes related to public records requests specifically for camera footage that will be generated. As you know, that the commissioners, you guys authorized body worn cameras, and so we're just in the process of getting those up and running. And so this is a piece of that to assist us with the collection of fees for processing public disclosure requests.
Thank you. Questions, Commissioner Munzer? And no questions for me. Thank you, Under Sheriff Brady.
Thank you.
Okay, it is 10:12. Do we want to take a break or do we want to review proclamations and awards?
Probably bust through these things.
Okay, so we're moving on to proclamations and awards and advisory boards and commissions, and Jamie Caldwell, our clerk of the board.
Good morning, Jamie Caldwell, clerk of the board. I don't have any updates for the proclamations at the moment. The next upcoming one we have is for the farmers market, and I'll have a draft for it draft for you of it here shortly. For the boards and commissions, I received one reappointment application from Nathan Allen for the Agritourism Advisory Committee. His appointment expires at the end of this month. I did touch base on the with the staff contact for the Agricultural Advisory Committee based on how many seat numbers that they had left open. It is actually going to remain at 2 non-farmers because one of them did expire and that person opted to not request a reappointment. So they do still have 2 non-farmer positions. Outside of any questions, that's all I have.
Okay. Questions?
I don't have any questions. This looks good. I probably leave it for Commissioner Edwards' input next week.
Yeah. I laughed at the available hours per month enough. But yeah, the agritourism, I've attended some of their meetings and they're a good group and they're very efficient. So we'll be discussing the application for Nathan Allen's reappointment to the Agritourism Advisory Committee next week. And get Commissioner Edwards' input on it. For the farmers market week that's coming up, can we be sure and invite Olympia, Young, Tumwater, and Tenino farmers markets? I know last year we had issues, so maybe reaching out to them early on so we can have those guests come.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Okay. PIO check-in.
Good morning, Commissioners. Megan Porter, Public Information Supervisor. Just one reminder, the 150th Thurston County Fair starts tomorrow, Wednesday, July 27th, and runs through Sunday, July 31st. We invite everyone to join us for the annual Commissioners Pancake Breakfast on Saturday, July 30th at 8:30 a.m. The breakfast is free with admission to the fair. For information about the fair, please follow the Thurston County Fairgrounds and Event Center Facebook page or the county Twitter or Facebook pages. And then you can also find fair information on the Thurston County Fair website at thurstoncountywa.gov/fair. Pending any questions, that's what I have this morning.
Questions?
So I understand there's an opening ceremony tomorrow, and I thought it was going to be some speeches, and I thought there was a tribal piece, but then I heard something about cupcake decorating, and I'm wondering what is all going to be going on.
We'll have to check in with Josh
Okay.
on that. I don't have any of the details.
I have the brochure.
In the morning, that they have a cupcake.
Yeah, it's from 6 to 7 tomorrow.
Maybe we're judging them or something.
I don't know. There's often game.
Or judge.
Yeah.
I can give you the events. I have the brochure. If you'd like me to go through the agenda quickly for the welcoming ceremony, if you'd like me to go through it quickly.
Public might, I don't know what all is incorporated in it. It might be of interest to the public.
Yeah, so it's starting at 6 o'clock tomorrow at the fair. There's the introduction, national anthem, welcome and introduction of the elected officials, introduction of the fair board, an elected officials contest, demonstrate your cupcake decorating skills.
Wow.
Yes. Commercial booth awards, adopted garden awards, the Ann Shipley Lifetime Achievement Award presentation, and then a sneak peek at the new entertainment for this year.
There you go.
I am competitive, but my decorating skills are awful, so.
Yeah, no.
Okay, I have the RHC meeting tomorrow. So just, I will try to be there as soon as possible, hoping it doesn't go long. But just a FYI. Okay. Thank you, Megan. Briefing, public hearing decisions pending. There's none. Okay, 10:16, let's go ahead and take a 15-minute break and then we'll follow up with commissioners' items. Wow, this is
I have a few, so. Future items.
You're live, Commissioner. Good morning, and we're back from break. This is agenda setting work session. It is 10:35 a.m. We left off with commissioner items. The first item is the Board of Health applications follow-up. And who is taking that on?
So Kurt Harden is going to take the lead on that.
Okay, Kurt. You're on mute. There we
Good
go.
morning. I'm trying to come off mute. Good morning, Commissioners. Kurt Harden, Interim Director for Thurston County Public Health and Social Services. This is a continuation of the planning session that took place a week ago this past Friday. So, and the Commissioners had discussed and talked about the various applicants that came up for the Board of Health positions. I'm going to attempt to share my screen because have the same list that we had, but you'd not reprioritize, put different candidates in different categories than what I had because some of them were qualified for more than one category. So I'm going to try this and see. Hopefully you should be able to see the application, the names in front of you. And based on what we talked about, or what you talked about, there's a couple of different options. Obviously, the ordinance is asking the board to select a member from each of the 3 different categories. However, there was discussion by the board members on the planning session that since there were so few applications for the second category, a member representing consumers of public health, that there was consideration and discussion by the board to go back out one more time and focus on that area to try to see if additional applicants would submit for that particular category. Other than that, the various buckets were from the first bucket, Beth Harvey and Lynn Nelson were the 2 names that were discussed as potential. And then in the third bucket, Scott Hanauer was the name discussed in the third bucket by the commissioners. And that's a recap from the notes that I have.
So Kurt, what are our next steps?
The next steps would be to, if the commissioners can appoint 2 to the Board of Health and then go forward with the recruitment for that second category. So commissioners can take and select someone from the first bucket and the third bucket, move those forward to as soon as this afternoon even, to be able to select those members for the Board of Health. And then the first meeting of the Board of Health could potentially go forward in August with 7 members instead of 8 with 1 position vacant. It still would be and Elizabeth is on here and I know she'll correct me if I'm wrong, but it still would be a valid expanded Board of Health because you'd have the new members appointed, but that would with 1 vacancy. And then you could go back out and do the recruitment, or the commissioners, you could select 2 candidates from the same bucket if you didn't feel there were any qualified candidates from one of the buckets. In other words, in this situation, you could select 2 members from the first or third category and then and not go back out and try and attempt to focus on that second category.
Right,
So
but
that's your.
I think that we already have gone back out with soliciting additional candidates from the second category.
Yes, with the application deadline of this Friday.
Okay, then I'm corrected here. Then my notes are just a little bit off. So we have done that. So the commissioners, you can go forward and select the board members from the first and third categories. You can do that as soon as this afternoon, and then take action based on the additional applicants that come in by Friday.
Questions, comments, Commissioner Munster?
Can't we just wait till 1 week and then do all of them together with Commissioner Edwards here? I thought the plan was I thought we go with Dr. Harvey, Scott Hanauer, try to find a new person for number 2. Otherwise, we go with Lynn Nelson as a third. But it seems like we should just do all that at once we've got any new applications, if any new applications come in. Is there some reason we need to go ahead and make 2 appointments today, Kurt?
My understanding is that the desire was to have this put in place as much as possible by the end of July. It could happen, you could delay a week, do it next week, and the scheduled Board of Health, regularly scheduled August Board of Health meeting isn't until a week from next Tuesday, 2 weeks from today.
I guess there's value in letting the selected members know that they're going to be expected at a meeting, but I still feel a little uncomfortable with that request out there, and Commissioner Edwards not here. I don't really think that we should move forward today. I haven't changed my mind about anything, but I'd still just like to do it next week, if that's okay.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Commissioner Menzer, on it. Especially if, have we received any new applications? Not as of yet? Okay. So, with that possibility that we already chose that third candidate already, yeah, I'm in agreement to have this discussion next Tuesday.
Okay.
When is the August Board of Health meeting? When would it be?
2 weeks from today, I believe it's the second Tuesday of August, following the normal Board of County Commissioner meeting.
So would the board be comfortable with notifying the two candidates that are selected that there'll be a meeting?
I think that makes sense. We could sort of say that there's however we want to word it, they're likely to be appointed. They're in final consideration. We want them to have a heads up that the Board of Health meeting is.
Yeah.
I think that would be good, because I'd hate to have them miss a chance to attend the first meeting just because we didn't give them enough leeway. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah.
Yeah, because my notes from that day was that Commissioner Edwards also agreed with the two candidates.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay to go ahead and notify them, Kurt?
I would leave Ms. Nelson out of that, though, because I don't want to create unreasonable expectation. But as to the two tentative selections, maybe.
Right, Dr. Harvey and Mr. Hanauer.
Right. I'll phrase it as they're in final consideration. If selected, the Board of Health meeting will be on 2 weeks from today on the second Tuesday in August. So that way, I'm not committing anyone, but at the same time, they've got the notification.
Sounds good.
That sounds good. Thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Board of Health applications, that was it. So other commissioners' items. Commissioner Menzer, we'll start with you, sir.
Okay, I have 3 things I wanted to address. Looks like we'll have time. The first one is a July 21st email from the Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission, which has apparently decided to ignore the overwhelming consensus of the Thurston County community about siting an airport here. We've been listed as on the final 10 greenfield options as well as expansion options. They say in this email that as part of the commission's work is still immature, WashDOT will be reaching out to individual county public works and planning organizations for their input. There's going to be a online open house and 2 virtual public meetings in August. So I wanted to know, A, has our county public works been contacted? B, would the board like to send a new letter reiterating our opposition? Because I don't think, to my knowledge, our position hasn't changed, and our community's position hasn't changed. I continue to receive regular emails from members of the public in opposition. So I just want everyone to be aware of this and kind of talk about what kind of response we might be able to make, input.
Was that email from a citizen or was it from?
This came from the head of this committee, David Fleckenstein, and it was then forwarded from Katie. I think it came to the commissioners.
I have not seen that email.
It went out to the group.
I did see the email. Could you remind us again, Commissioner, what the date was?
So his email went out July 20th, and then it came to the commissioners from Katie, forwarded the very next morning. It came out in the evening on Wednesday, July 20th, 5:36. Hit the commissioner's office Thursday, July 21st at 9 a.m.
First, that's what I'm looking for. because I do remember seeing it and being surprised, because we had at one point received a communication that we were no longer in consideration. And to see that we again are was surprising to me.
Me too.
Yeah, I thought that they said Thurston County was not even being considered for this.
Right,
That's what they told
we had
them.
received that communication many months ago. But now we are back on the list, and that's basically what this presentation says.
Right, so I just wanted the board to have a chance to maybe, if nothing else, we could send a letter signed by the commissioners in advance of the public, either they're soliciting more public input this month, or sorry, next month. So we should probably have it on our radar to prepare just reiterate, we can attach our previous letter. Board has discussed this, we continue to receive consistent input from the community in opposition. Our position has not changed. We are distressed to find that we have been included after believing that we were eliminated from consideration. A letter along those lines.
So I can check with Jennifer and Josh to see if either of them have heard from the Department of Transportation regarding this. And we can brush off the old letter and draft something new if that's the board's direction.
Yeah, definitely. Can we add this also to next week's agenda so we can, under commissioner items, so we can discuss this?
Yeah, I'm pretty confident Commissioner Edwards is still in alignment with this, and so I feel confident saying we should push forward with this, and then, maybe next week he can look at the letter as well.
We can look at the letter, yeah. And I'm in support of doing the letter.
Great.
All right.
That's one. Pass it back to you, Madam Chair. You've got a commissioner item.
Yeah. My commissioner item is, I had a discussion with district court yesterday, and their concerns over the heat levels at Chandler Court. I know they said they've been working with Central Services, but they're just concerned over jurors coming in. And so, I have that concern too. It's really hard for us to get jurors to participate right now. And I just want to make sure that we make it comfortable for those who are volunteering their time to be here. And I know the building's not ours, but, is there any other possible accommodation? Can we get portable ACs or something where the air is not stale and it's not hot?
I will follow up on that to see what's been done to date. I know that the HVAC system at Chandler Court was checked by the owners and determined to be functioning, so I don't know what's going on, but I will follow up.
Thank you. Yeah, that was concerning, especially with these heat levels right now.
Yep.
Okay. Commissioner Munster, back to you.
Okay, next is this letter we all got about participation to be ex officio seat on the sea level rise committee. So I've attended some of these meetings. I would, encourage us to do that, and I would volunteer to sit if that's what folks want. I can't make this next meeting August 5th, but I probably could make subsequent meetings of the committee, so I just wanted to throw those 2 cents in.
What time is it on August 5th?
It's noon to 1:30 on they do quarterly meetings, so it's August 5th is
Is it via
Friday.
Zoom?
Yeah. And we don't have to,
Well, I can attend that one if you're willing to pick up the rest.
Okay.
this can be your assignment.
We should probably, again, take this up with Commissioner Edwards to see if he's comfortable with this county having a role. Something maybe the
So,
county manager could just touch base with us on next week.
yeah. So this item 2 on next week's agenda, that's official for the
One of the
Sea Level Rise Committee.
under the commissioner items, we could just list that out as something to discuss. Okay.
I'll put Commissioner Munster volunteered.
Yep, I volunteer. It connects to my climate committee assignments. So.
Okay. I guess my next commissioner's item it's having to do with just the NACO conference and just give an update. So I'll let you go on to that last item and then I can give kind of an overview.
Okay. My third one is something I thought Thomasina might be able to. She knows more of the details than I do, so maybe she can explain what she's learned, and then the board could discuss what could be done, if anything, to address the situation. It relates to a grant that a citizen who outlaid some money related to a grant that we were going to be receiving, and something happened we didn't receive the grant. I don't know. I'm going to let Thomasina explain it.
All right, Thomasina Cooper, Assistant to Commissioner Menser. Our office was contacted a couple of weeks ago by a resident, Mr. Bob Barnes. Mr. Barnes often works with our Public Works, Parks, and Trails team on McLean area restoration projects. In 2020, Bob had worked with our Parks office, Carrie Hibden, our Parks Director at the time, with a DNR grant agreement, a community forestry assistance grant. It was Bob's understanding that he would be the contractor in that grant, working to plant 250 trees along Evergreen Parkway. Bob did send an invoice after doing that work, and it never was paid. He's done some research since then and has discovered that the grant with DNR was never executed. So while we had applied for the grant and received it, we had never actually executed the contract. When I followed up with our Public Works Director, Jennifer Walker, I learned that the grant had not been executed, and the reason given was that it was during COVID and our staffing capacity was limited. According to Carrie Hibden, we would not be able to actually accomplish the goals of that contract within the timeline allotted. Unfortunately, somewhere in that mix, Mr. Barnes was not notified that this was the decision, and he proceeded to move along with the work that he had agreed to do, and to his out of his pocket, expecting that he would be reimbursed. So at this point, Mr. Barnes is hoping to get some at least partial reimbursement for the costs that he outlaid. The total out of his pocket is $9,875. When I spoke to Jennifer Walker about this request, I was told that there would be no reimbursement opportunity for Mr. Barnes.
Was there a contract signed between the county and Mr. Barnes to do work?
Not to the best of my knowledge.
But there was communication between both parties, kind of in agreement for this.
Yes.
The question I had that I don't know if you uncovered the answer to was, we'd worked with him in a similar context multiple times. What was the usual practice? Did he often outlay stuff based on a representation of a grant without a signed contract? Because that in contract law and in courts that analyze contract, custom and practice can be
implied oral agreement.
Exactly.
Yeah, I understand that, and even so, our procurement policy says that even with small amounts, a written contract is required to pay for work that's being done. And I understand that in this case, we may determined that there was an implied oral contract, but
Well, then my other question
that
is,
should not have been the case.
another theory is unjust enrichment. But my question is, did he actually plant those? Did he actually purchase trees and plant them in county, on the county trail? And if so, then we essentially would have a theory of unjust enrichment. Another sort of argument you make in court on these types of situations. We can't skate off on a technicality when we got benefited. So did the trees get planted?
That's my understanding.
And does he have receipts and other?
I don't know about receipts. I can certainly find out.
And what year did he do the planting? 2020?
In 2020.
And this is. I can certainly follow up on this and see what's going on.
Yeah, so Thomasina, my question is, I know he's seeking at least partial reimbursement. But the total, what was the complete invoice? Was it 9,800? So he's seeking kind of partial from.
Yes.
He would like at least something back?
Yes.
I mean, and the reason I wanted to bring it to the board, you know, I understand Jennifer's position, but I thought she might be speaking with a different, you know, set of glasses on, like public works, policy, grant, you know, versus where the Board of County Commissioners might sit in a.
County policy is all contracts need to be in writing and that we do not reimburse without a written contract in place. So I can see where Jennifer is following county policy in that respect. But if we've done similar things in the past, I need to have a conversation with Jennifer about what their practice has been.
Because I have personally participated in half a dozen similar projects that involved Mr. Barnes, so and involved county staff. So I know that this was not unusual thing. I mean, there had to have been a way that they went about things. We planted oaks near McLean School. We planted redwoods near the Ralph Monroe Trail. We've done daffodils in the thing. I mean,
I understand.
and he's
all of
intimately
those
involved in all of that.
Yes, he has been. So the question is, has he been reimbursed each time
Yeah.
with no contract? And so let me follow up on this and see what's going on and come back to the board with a recommendation.
Okay, and then Elizabeth is here, so she's listening.
Yeah, I'll work with her too.
Okay.
Because I absolutely agree that unless Mr. Barnes had offered this in the spirit of volunteerism and donation, then he should be reimbursed with his work. But I gotta get down to what's behind it all.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling like he should be reimbursed too, but getting that full information.
Yeah.
Thank you, Thomasina. Okay, NACO conference. So, me and Robin went to the NACO conference. It was my first time attending. And for the public, this is the National Association of Counties. It was a very full conference. In the future, I think, and it was conversations I had with Robin, I think it's wise to send both a staff member and a commissioner. And it can be rotated just depending on schedules and availability or interest. But it's definitely something that's, I think we've been missing out on. And it was really informational. I mean, just the level of participation from other counties and the level that you can get involved in legislative, federal legislative policy is, and there's a million subcommittees, and
Don't tell me you came out
no,
with
I
another
did not.
committee.
No, I told Robin you know, if we are granted 5 commissioners and it's split, it would be wise for us to start getting involved at that level because our committees would be kind of split.
Yeah.
We've just recently started getting involved in statewide committees, so I'm like, we can't add federal ones right now, we just don't have the capacity. But you could see kind of the, I talked to 2 of the, and one was from Kitsap County and another was from Pierce County, who are involved on the NACO level. And I was asking them like, you know, like, what is it you do? Like, and I was getting information and they seem to really enjoy it and enjoy just how, you know, they're crafting in kind of the federal policy level of things. And so I just, I attended a couple of them. I attended one of them that thought was really cool that gave us kind of a whole section, was on affordable housing and policy, and both me and Robin attended that. And they had basically a map that I'm gonna pass along the information later on, but it was basically like where we are compared to the rest of the nation in terms of affordable housing policy. And then after that, it gave you recommended policies for specifically for the county on what we could do. So I thought it was just really impressive. They say the information's a little outdated, but for us, it seemed kind of a little bit spot on. And we were put in the category of high population growth.
Are we in Washington or Thurston?
Thurston County.
Thurston County.
Thurston County specifically, so it's allotted by county. So we were put in the high growth, high population growth, and low availability for housing. And so it gave several policy recommendations, which I thought was pretty cool, and I can read some of them off. So, and this was for 2019 was the last time they gathered data, and they're gathering data for these recent years as well. So they're constantly updating these. And so it gives like comparison, recommended policy solutions, upzone land to allow for higher density housing or lower cost housing type, relaxed dimensional requirements such as minimum lot sizes, setbacks, lot coverage. So it gives you the kind of recommended policies that we should make depending on what our issues are, which was, you know, make it easier to build small, moderately priced homes or make the development process simpler and shorter. And so there was a lot of conversation in regards to that, expand vouchers or income supports for low income renters. So I got a lot from that. Another one I attended was the parks for different areas, and the presenter they were from Wake County, North Carolina, and they've really put a lot of investment they've passed a bond for their parks and their greenways and trails. But another cool thing that they have was this app, and the app was built by a Girls Who Code, so it was built from a local university, and that specific group did it, basically they did it as their senior project, so it ended up being free for the county. And so now they have an app who's accessible to all the countywide users, and it basically just gives you all the information on different parks. I thought that was really cool that, you know, how they find different ways to do that.
For the public?
Yeah, so it's an application
Like a
on
park guide for their area
Yeah.
or something?
It's got the trail maps and it's got just different connections and, you know, if there's gonna be a closure, it's where they put it. So I thought that was pretty impressive, how they were able to do that. And
Which
it was
group did that?
Girls Who Code, and it was from a local university that they
In
had.
North Carolina? you said?
Yeah. Wake County, North Carolina. So next year, it's gonna be in Austin. So if any of the other commissioners are, you know, wanting to attend that, you know, if not, then
Is it always in the middle of the summer?
it's always in the middle of summer, I think.
July is the week they do it.
Great time to go to Texas.
Right.
Yeah, I know, or Denver.
Denver
apparently.
it was hot.
It was hot, but so is it here today.
So one thing that I'm gonna be recommending to WASOP is for them to go ahead and reserve rooms, and for Thurston County to at least have 2 rooms reserved, just because I think the input that we're getting from this is valuable. I know Robin attended several infrastructure, and she got information on the infrastructure bill that got passed. And overall, it was a great conference. I think we gain much more from attending it than, we do if we don't.
Right, and we have to be, like with any conference, we have to be careful about coming back and wanting the new shiny thing that we saw. But some of these things could be of great value to our citizens. So as Commissioner Mejia mentioned, I went to 2 workshops on the Federal Infrastructure Act. One with really great information on how to access some of the competitive grants around water, certain things to look for in the bill, and really the top recommendation is to hire a consultant to help you get the money. So there's that, and then I also attended so many workshops. But
I know, I was trying to think of all of them.
I know, and I don't have my notes handy, but the one on how to tell the county story. First, I'm so grateful to our PIO team, listening to some of the stories that were told from counties that don't have them. But also some just really great, simple ideas on how to get the county story out that we might be able to amp up what we already do. So that was really great. And then the last session of the day was a gentleman from a company called Not Impossible. They have implemented, you haven't heard about this yet.
No, because
they have implemented, it's a program to address food insecurity. They're focused right now on the indigent veteran population, but it's easily expanded to any group who's experiencing food insecurities. And I have so many ideas about how this county could benefit from that and how to fund it that I need to learn a little more about what it is, but I'm hoping to come to the board with a proposal on implementing this in the near term. It's so incredible.
Well, a good reason to have 5 commissioners to be able to commit to that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because it's just been something that, I couldn't really imagine fitting into my schedule.
Yep.
Right.
I was like, this is something that
Because it's like we have so many committees. I mean, just the idea that being gone a week, how do I cover, and there's only 2 other commissioners to cover intercity transit and JASCOM and LOT, and it's too compressed. We don't have these opportunities to do things like that.
Yeah, on Friday, I was with my headphones and trying to get in a quiet place, attending a meeting from here, right? And so I know it's difficult, but I think it's definitely of use for one of us to attend. And then hopefully once we have 5, then, it's something that we can start getting more involved with. I think it's definitely valuable. And I didn't even think about signing to any of the subcommittees. I was just like, nope. But I, just in conversations with the other 2 commissioners in Washington that are involved, they seem to really enjoy and get a lot from it for their respective counties. So
Right, and there were about, how many, would you say, 8, 10 of the Washington State counties represented there?
So I didn't see who, for Washington State, who really all was there until the very last day when it was like the full delegation. It was like, where did you guys come from? But there were Stevens, 2 from Pierce, Spokane, was Wes, I'm not sure which county he's
Yeah.
from, and Jamie.
Zap.
Yeah, Jamie. So there were around 10. And then us.
Was
Well,
it Ryan and Johnny from Pierce?
It was, yeah.
Right, and Eric Johnson
Oh,
was there
yeah,
from
Eric Johnson
the
from Wausau.
association.
And then
Of
Jane
course.
Wall was there for,
I think Jamie was there at one point, but,
Jamie Stevens? Who?
oh, no. No, I think that is who I was thinking of.
Yeah, and then Jane Wall from the County Road Administration Board was there as well. So it was just a really good group.
Yeah, extremely worthwhile. I went for the first time last year. Before last year, I don't think this county had ever sent anyone to the NACO conference, but last year, when I came back, I understood how to access the ARPA lost revenue, and was encouraged to do so, even though I never would have thought that we would be eligible for that. So I actually came back with $7 million in my pocket and talking to other counties who said that they would never have applied had I not shared that information. So absolutely of value to the county.
Yeah.
And if we access that federal infrastructure money this year, I raised the concerns that Jennifer Walker had sent to me. I have some answers about that, and I mean, we could stand to pull in millions on that bill as well.
At the exhibit, we saw some police vehicles that were all electric. They were so cool.
I have an email in my box from a citizen about electric police vehicles.
Well, they're doing them,
They're
and
doing
we
them,
saw
yeah.
a few, and it's feasible. And we ought to have a conversation with the sheriff about piloting a couple of them.
So they had pursuit cars, they had trucks, they had smaller vehicles, like it was
Right.
pretty cool.
We saw some really cool shelter
Yes.
possibilities for that are
Franz
being
Anderson,
used
yeah.
for homeless shelters that are from a company that's right here in Western Washington.
Everett, yeah.
Yep.
Like modular
That,
buildings or
yep,
something?
They're like,
yep. Super small and compact, but everything someone needs to have a
heater and
place.
AC on them.
Yep, and to be able to, live with a little bit of dignity in a bad situation. So there was that we saw. I went with 2 goals in mind. One was to learn about the infrastructure bill, and the other was to explore what the possibilities are to run our meetings better. So I came home with some information on that. I'll be meeting with the clerk and the PIO
Board meetings?
and the budget
For the system.
director to, talk about and start putting together a proposal on how we can manage these meetings in a much, much more efficient way. So totally valuable to.
Staff-wise or board-wise?
Staff to support the board so that you can work better.
And also for the public, right?
Less
Because it would
paper
just-
and better engagement for the public. So really, really a valuable event.
Is that, since we're not doing commissioner check-in Thursday, I might report on the Capitol Lake.
Sure.
Because this is starting to, the rubber's starting to meet the road here, and their timeline is really, they spent a lot of time working through the details, but then we're not gonna have a lot of time to chew and, as a board. So I'm just wanting to preview whatever I can. I was holding back a little bit because the numbers were in constant state of flux, but I think I saw a draft that's gonna probably be what we get issued on the 8th of August. I think the ask from the county is gonna be 10% of the cost of sediment management plus financial agency, as an in-kind contribution.
So.
That's what I think is gonna be in. Now Jeff and I pushed back really hard on the 10% because we were previously at 5%, but they're trying to get everybody's numbers to a level that people can swallow, and apparently in this latest draft, we got bumped up. Now, the countervailing to that is the dollar amount in the chart isn't much different because they decided they had built in escalation across the entirety of the contract, and they've decided to not do that. Bring the numbers, they were using $20 and then escalating them through the 18 years, I think, in duration. They brought their numbers up to 2022, including our last 2 years of, higher costs, but they're just sort of keeping it in $2022. So, and they did something else that I can't think if I can explain this, but they did another little tweak of the numbers. Like they were using a super high, conservative estimate, and they went back to a median or something. I don't know. The ultimate number, which was looking like $134,000 a year for the county at the 5% level, is now like $157,000 at the 10% level. So even though our percentage jumped, the dollar amount that you're going to see in terms of what the public will see and what will be embedded in the agreement is not that much different. But
It's still $157,000 a year, and where's that supposed to come from? For a state-owned property.
Yep, that's.
So it's $157,000?
That's kind of, in 2022 dollars, that would be the county's chunk of the sediment management, the maintenance level sediment management. Now it's sort of complicated, they're taking baseline conditions and they're basically allotting that to the marinas and the port, but then they're looking at what additional sediment and then what additional activities will have to be part of the estuary configuration, and then they're trying to come up with percentages. So Lot's got 15%, Olympia's got 22.5%, and Tumwater's got 10% or something like that, and the port's got 15%, and in Thurston County, they started out at 5 to 10%. That's where we started, and then as the first iterations of this chart, we were at 5, and I was feeling pretty good about that. I felt like in terms of the public and where does the county fit and how much responsibility are we taking. But now, in terms of trying to massage everybody else's numbers, they've jumped us to the upper end of our original range at 10. Again, just massaging these numbers to putting us at about $157,000 a year, and it was 130 something. But you're going to see that. I'm pretty comfortable with the structure of the MOU. It's just a matter of those dollars and cents. And you're going to see this, I think, around the 8th of August. And we're going to be given a couple of weeks to, as a board, give feedback and all of that. The problem is that if any of the jurisdictions have major concerns, then there's so many parties, this is such a multilateral endeavor that if any one entity, let's just say Thurston County, Board of County Commissioners, has major issues with this, I don't know how they're gonna it's a domino effect. It's this puzzle and everybody's got their piece, and Jeff and I have been kind of the representatives for the county, and we've been trying to articulate our concerns and our stuff, but this is the proposal, and I'm very concerned that if any one party goes really sideways on wanting to this, it's gonna really, their whole timeline's gonna go out the window. They're trying to get September, by late September, early October, they want signatures on an MOU that then they can attach to the EIS and present to the legislature. It's non-binding in a sense. It's got renegotiation triggers that say, we're coming up with a percentage, if it goes above 15%, then all bets are off and we gotta go back to the table and renegotiate.
Right.
Within this certain amount, we'll all agree to pay our 10% or whatever.
have all the jurisdictions agreed that they would pay a share? Because quite frankly, when all of this started and a group was formed that included the jurisdictions, I want to say it had to have been at least 8 years ago, the county's position and the city's at that time was, we will not pay. It is a state-owned property. And then there was the legislation that said that the participating local jurisdictions had to pay a small piece of the planning work, but that we would not have to pay in the long run. And now there's an expectation that we pay in the long run.
The expectation in the time that I've been involved in this has been, the state has been proposing, we take responsibility for the construction 100%. We turn this into an estuary, 270 million or whatever it is that's gonna cost. But then we need the local jurisdictions to work, to show some skin in the game on the long-term management. The state is they're basically like 8.4% of this sediment management. The Army Corps of Engineers is at like 20-something%, but they're relying on us to manage sediment because of the benefits that we're gonna get from the waterfront and the local economy and tourism and blah, 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 blah.
It is a state-owned property at the end of the day.
It is, but.
And I kind of walked into this, Hutch was the rep, and by the time I walked into this, those kind of questions had been kind of
The state has
settled.
always wanted us to pay, and like I said, at the beginning, there was a clear message from the local participants that the state, you own it, you need to maintain it. And it sounds like that has evolved.
That has
That's all
evolved, and I would say that Olympia is the most vocal about all of this because it's mainly their assets, the bridge and transportation and all the impacts, are gonna directly affect their downtown. So Olympia is the most vocal. They're clearly engaged in wanting to support the estuary. The thought is that it will require this kind of interlocal cooperation and agreement to convince the legislature to actually buy off on this $300 million project or whatever that price tag is for the estuary construction. So they're really pushing hard to have this included in the EIS to present a package to the legislature that will be essentially overwhelming to them. Hey, look at all the work the local and the commitments made by our local jurisdictions. You've got to step up and pay for this. That's the thought, is that it'll really bolster the political success of the effort to get, because the state can do the same thing and go, it's not our problem, it's not, it might be our problem, but it's of minimal concern to us, because
They absolutely could, and having a joint proposal also will get you farther in the legislature than having something where stakeholders are disagreeing. So I don't disagree with any of that. I just asked because this position has evolved from where it began.
and I'm glad I've had this chance to speak to both of you, and Robin in particular, because I'm sure the board is gonna wanna know, if we were to sign the dotted line, how are we gonna pay our share from what fund and, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, I don't know where we.
So it's something to be
So I
thinking about.
need to think about what fund we could legally pull
Stormwater
this from,
fees?
if not the general fund. I'm sorry, what?
Stormwater fees or the stormwater?
Maybe, we can take a look at that. That is the other idea that's the major idea that's running through my head. That's where we're paying for the smaller participation fees as we go, is out of the stormwater fund. So it's possible, I'd want to get a legal look at that. I'm not thinking any other possibilities.
Okay. It is 11:24. Any additional items? We are adjourned.